Soon we'll, hopefully in the next term, we'll be back at the event center at the law school. And during this time, instead of us just waiting, you'll be able to get coffee and food, and we'll all be together and we can chat and meet each other again. Hopefully that'll occur in the next term. But right now, we're happy to have the Zoom system that allows us to continue with these breakfasts, these important breakfasts. So I'm going to begin in about just a few more seconds and I'll start. Well, let's begin the formal breakfast. Good morning, everybody. On behalf of New York Law School and Dean Anthony Crowell, I welcome you to the 178th City Law Breakfast. I am Ross Sandler, Professor of Law and the Director of the Center for New York City Law. Thank you for attending and for helping to make City Law Breakfast an important public forum. We're very proud of them and we're thankful that you all are attending. I want to thank especially our three generous and loyal founding sponsors of the City Law Breakfast series. They are, as everyone now knows, Consolidated Edison, Verizon, and the law firm of Greenberg Traurig. We're extremely grateful to their long time and loyal support. I also want to thank each of you who've made a voluntary contribution when you signed up to attend the breakfast. Your name will be prominently listed in the email sent to after every breakfast with the link to the video. We are enormously grateful for your voluntary contributions. You help make the City Law Breakfast possible. Thank you. After Commissioner Jenkins' prepared remarks, we will have a question and comment session. You may submit a question or a comment at any time during the breakfast. We will collect the questions and comments as they come in. And to submit a question or a comment, please use the Q&A function on your Zoom screen. And we ask that you please identify yourself with your first and last name and your organization. Following the questions and comments, Dean Anthony Crowell will join us for a conversation with the Commissioner. We are delighted to welcome Commissioner Gary Jenkins to our City Law Breakfast series. Commissioner Jenkins comes to his position with exceptional experience, earned over 30 years in city government providing social services. Commissioner Jenkins graduated from John Jay High School in Brooklyn, obtained his BA from John Jay College of Criminal Justice, and a master's degree in public administration from Metropolitan College of New York. Commissioner Jenkins started his career with the city on the front line and worked his way up to the very top of the city's social service agencies. In his last position at the Human Resources Administration, Commissioner Jenkins directly oversaw the city's Homelessness Prevention Administration. 41 years ago, in 1981, the city settled the Callahan case by a consent decree guaranteeing shelter to homeless adult men. In the 41 years since signing the consent decree, the city has struggled to meet its obligations, sometimes with initiatives of its own, and on other occasions with the threat of contempt hanging over the heads of high-ranking city officials. The Legal Aid Society, which now represents the classes of homeless persons, greeted Commissioner Jenkins' appointment with a cautious statement. New York City is facing an unprecedented level of people experiencing homelessness, poverty, and inequality. City government needs leaders who understand how critical it is for New Yorkers to have access to quality social services and who are willing to remove bureaucratic barriers to programs. Moreover, the legal aid says the homelessness crisis is fundamentally a housing crisis, and any plan to solve it must dramatically increase access to permanent and supportive housing for all homeless and low-income New Yorkers. And then legal aid said, we look forward to working with Commissioner Jenkins to address the growing homelessness crisis and to ensure that our clients and all New Yorkers in need of social services are treated with dignity and respect. Commissioner Jenkins, as you can see, is the only city commissioner with three bosses: the mayor, the courts, and the lawyers. Commissioner Jenkins will need every bit of his skills and his 30 years of experience to manage in such an environment. New York Law School is honored to welcome Commissioner Gary Jenkins to the City Law Breakfast Forum. The floor is yours.
Good morning. Thank you, Professor Sandler. And thank you to the New York Law School for having me here this morning. It's really wonderful to be here. My name is Gary Jenkins, as stated, and my story is not that different from thousands of New Yorkers and families across the country. To give you a little background, I started out as a kid, born and raised in Brooklyn by a single mom with several other siblings. We had a lot of moments where we asked ourselves, what happens next? We experienced housing instability and weren't always sure where we would sleep next. I even ended up living in the shelter myself as a child, right across the bridge in Brooklyn. That time in my life shaped who I am today because of the hardworking social workers who were there for me during tough times left a lasting impact on me. The staff from the city agency I now run were the ones who made sure I was doing well in school and had a roof over my head. So when I had the opportunity to choose my own career, I knew exactly what I had to do. I had to serve my community and my hometown. I joined the Human Resources Administration and I stayed for over 30 years. Now, I'm the commissioner of this agency, the Department of Social Services. This isn't just a job to me, it's my life's purpose. Because I see myself when I go into shelters. I see myself when I overhear caseworkers helping families figure out SNAP benefits. I see so much of myself in our clients because I was a client just like them. I personally know the struggles surrounding being a low-income or homeless New Yorker. Believe it or not, many New Yorkers are one missed paycheck away from losing their home, the neighborhood, and the community they call home, and a sense of security and stability that we all are entitled to. We need to reimagine the way we deal with homelessness in our city. We as an agency are holistic in our approach. We work to figure out how our clients ended up in a situation where they are without shelter, stability, and support. Then we work our hardest to get them the services they need to put them on the path towards shelter, stability, and support. Once they're in our system, our team works diligently to cater to the specific needs of our clients because a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work when you're dealing with our most vulnerable New Yorkers. Some need medical attention, which we provide on site. Some need mental health and harm prevention services. And more often than not, this is the first time they are getting high quality care for these issues. Some clients need to be placed close to their children's school, work, or community so that they can get back on their feet closer to their anchors of life. Our approach to addressing homelessness leads with care and compassion. There are many reasons that can lead to homelessness: economic inequality, rents outpacing incomes, domestic violence, eviction, and incarceration, to name a few. That's why the work never stops. We must address how clients end up in our care and how to get them out. In the height of the pandemic, our social workers were on the front lines working 24/7 to ensure that our clients receive the same protections as New Yorkers who could isolate in their own homes, fighting for our clients, their communities, and each other. One of our most effective programs have been the Right to Counsel. As part of the implementation of the Department of Social Services' first in the nation Right to Counsel law, the Office of Civil Justice is committed to ensuring that any New Yorker who are entitled to free legal counsel are connected to the resources and supports they need and deserve. Over the past few years, we have aggressively expanded free legal assistance for New Yorkers in danger of eviction, which has helped countless of our clients avoid losing their homes. Thanks to the major expansions and massive investments in these anti-eviction services and prevention programs, we reduced evictions by more than 40% pre-pandemic, and more than 500,000 New Yorkers have received free legal representation, advice, or assistance in eviction and other housing-related matters as part of these initiatives. We are also rebuilding, strengthening, and streamlining our rental assistance programs and rehousing efforts to help New Yorkers in need stabilize their lives, and get back on their feet by moving out of shelter and into permanent and/or supportive housing. Lastly, and most importantly, we have doubled down on our existing efforts, our outreach efforts as part of HomeStat, the most comprehensive outreach program in the nation, wherein our outreach teams canvass the city 24/7 across the 5 boroughs. In addition to this, we have created and continue to create dedicated resources to address the unique needs of New Yorkers experiencing unsheltered homelessness. Today, we have approximately 3,000 specialized beds, such as safe havens and stabilization beds, dedicated to serving and supporting this population. Through all of these efforts and more, including ensuring robust wraparound services at our transitional housing facilities, and continuing to find more creative ways to meet our clients where they are, we are strengthening the delivery of social services every step of the way. Mayor Adams' commitment to supporting our neighbors in need with his recent subway safety plan prioritizes providing supports for New Yorkers experiencing unsheltered homelessness with complicated needs, including mental health and substance use challenges, and encouraging them to come in off of the subways and into high-quality facilities best suited to their needs. Through these plans and more, we remain focused on building on the progress we have made and doing everything we can to help our neighbors in need. At the end of the day, I always thank our frontline staff, because frontline staff allowed me to be here before you today. And they are the people who are implementing our policies and programs on the ground, helping bring a real difference to the lives of the clients in need. Because the work we do is important, and here at DSS, we are here to help. I am so proud to be a part of the social work community. The work never stops, and we all know how hard this work is. But I wake up every day with a purpose that keeps me going. Know that there are so many of us out there working to make this city and this world a better, fairer, and more equitable place. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for those remarks. And what we're going to do now is turn to some of the questions and comments that have come in. And I encourage people to send in that on the Q&A function, because what we need to have are questions and comments. We have a good bit of time, and so this is an opportunity to really get some good questions in and have the kind of informal conversation where we learn so much about the issues and the personality of our commissioner. So let's take from Kathleen Rubenstein. I'd appreciate it if the commissioner would speak to the current crisis in the Right to Counsel program. I'm not sure what she's referring to, but perhaps you do.
Sure. So in the press, there's concerns that the providers, our wonderful legal providers who provide services and legal representation for our clients who are at or below 200% of the poverty level, that there's a lack of lawyers to represent the need. I want to let everyone know, and please be rest assured that every client who's entitled to legal representation are being served with a lawyer. We're working with our providers to better understand how we can assist. We're working with the Office of Court Administration on the processes that's in place. But again, I want to leave you with this message. Our clients who are entitled to free legal representation through the Right to Counsel are being served.
Are these in civil courts or criminal court? What courts are we talking about?
We're talking about housing court.
Housing court. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Here's a question also from Kathleen Rubenstein. The commissioner has spoken about outreach, care, and compassion and creative ways to meet our clients where they are, but the city's recent sweeps are not consistent with those values. They are destructive. I'd like to ask how the commissioner plans to prevent the profound civil and human right violations that are occurring during these sweeps. Let me just say, I'm happy with questions like that because they're challenging. And so If others have questions that are similarly challenging, please put them in.
Keep the questions coming. And I really want you to hear directly from me on behalf of the administration, on behalf of Mayor Adams. We do lead, and as soon as I was appointed, had the conversation and discussion with our hardworking staff, the frontline staff, the mid-level managers, the senior managers, is that under my tenureship, we are going to lead with care and compassion. And what does that mean? Leading with care and compassion in every interaction that we have with our clients, that we have with our providers, that we have with our elected officials. Any interaction that we have, we're going to lead with care and compassion. So the encampments across the city that the mayor said, and I'm in 100% agreement, is inhumane living. We should not have and allow people to live in encampments. It's inhumane. They're not receiving the care and compassion that this city should be providing to this population. So our outreach team are out there, like I said in my remarks, 24/7, engaging those individuals and building that trust. It may not happen the first time. It may not happen the second time. It may not happen the fifth time, but we're going to remain diligent in our efforts to engage in those individuals, building that trust, and getting them to come inside so they can receive that care and compassion through mental health, through physical health, medical, and having a roof over their head in a meal that's being served to them, and not living out in the elements. So, the message or the rhetoric is there's sweeps and we're just taking people off. What's missing in that message is that we're out there every day engaging individuals and really building that trust. This is decades and decades of just not paying attention, and many of us just walking past. Under Mayor Adams, we're no longer walking past our neighbors in New York City. We're going to engage them.
There's been some reports about the encampments in the subways that the people are going back. What can you say about that?
And we're going to continue with our engagement and our outreach efforts. When one goes back and to an encampment, again, we have our outreach staff that's going to be there to build that trust and really encourage those individuals to come in and let the city provide the services that they deserve.
Here's a question from John A. Darren. With drug overdose deaths at an all-time high, when do you think in-person substance use assessments will be done again to properly identify and refer individuals in need of treatment seeking cash assistance from the city to appropriate treatment programs?
So we've never stopped. I have this in the Human Resources Administration and in the Department of Homeless Services. Throughout the pandemic, we continue to provide those services. Our job centers are now open to the public. This Monday, the last office that was not open will be reopened to the public to serve those who are in need. We also want to learn best practices from the pandemic, that everyone don't need to walk into a brick and mortar to be served. We can be served virtually. Here we are today in a virtual setting and conveying and having a real robust conversation. The same applies to our clients. It should be no different for them. If they need to come in, then our offices will be open for them to come in and for us to engage them in person.
Okay, here's from Vicky Bean. Can you explain the difference between Mayor Adams' approach to homelessness and the prior administrations? What have you rejected? What have you kept? And what new programs and policies are you implementing?
Under Mayor Adams, we are building from the prior administration, and then really looking how we can improve on that process. So what's uniquely different in this administration under Mayor Adams, we are now on the trains. We are engaging our homeless neighbors who are on the trains, outstretched, and having that engagement with a mental health professional to do the assessment, in addition to on the platforms. So the question is, what's different from the prior administration to this administration? Mayor Adams has directed us to really be there in the communities, providing that engagement to those who need our services and not having them come to us, but we are going to them.
Okay. Gerald Scup, how will the newly passed state budget allow you to expand your delivery of services? Are you happy with the new state budget?
Digging in, happy that it passed finally yesterday. We are evaluating what does that mean to New York City and how we're going to benefit from it. And then also what we need to continue to advocate for. But please be rest assured, under Mayor Adams, we are going to ensure that we continue to provide top-notch services to those who need our services. And we're going to continue to explore where do we need additional funding and what does that look like and how can we tap into our federal and state oversight.
Was your agency required to cut 3% like other agencies?
Absolutely. Mayor Adams looked at the fiscal responsibility of what he's been charged with and how do we streamline across our agencies. And we really had to, yes, we did participate in the 3% peg, but it was not frontline staff. It was not through any layoffs. We wanted to make sure that we were still able to provide services to the public.
Okay, this is from Allison. We do prefer if you give your last name as well, but this is from Allison. Thank you for speaking with us. What standards or roles exist to ensure that transitional housing provides wraparound services from the start versus on a reactionary basis?
So all of our contracts, when one applies through our open RFP to be part of our supportive housing or transitional housing, we review those proposals and we ensure that those services are included because our clients deserve it. They deserve the services that our providers should be providing to them, and that the taxpayer dollars are investing into this effort. So we ensure that the services are being provided. Once we realize or recognize that an additional need is there, we have that discussion and that negotiation with the specific provider or providers to ensure that those services are now incorporated into their model.
Okay. Some of the people who've asked questions, if you'd like to do a follow-up, put it in here and we'll try and get to them. Here's from Robin and Bill Hubbard. My impression is that homelessness began in the 1980s when the states began to empty the many institutional facilities that took care of the mentally impaired. And his question is that your impression, or is that how do you react to that assertion of fact?
I mean, I think there's several contributing factors that builds on one becoming homeless. I want to speak personally from my family. We unfortunately, and I'm going to say fortunately, had a city that was able to provide for us. As I stated in my remarks, my family and I lived in the shelter. We lived in the shelter for a little over a year. And that was in the 80s, and it was in the early 80s. We resided in a Hotel Granada. Growing up, I still recall running up and down those dark hallways. It was how we ended up in the shelter system. There was a fire and we had nowhere else to go. And again, we grew up on cash assistance, so we didn't have the luxury of having a second home to go to. So there's a lot of competing factors that contributes to homelessness. As I said in my remarks as well, low income, evictions. It's a lot of contributing factors. And yes, one is, back in the 80s when they did close those institutions and New Yorkers had nowhere else to go but to become homeless and live on the streets or go into our shelter system.
This is from Linda Jones. There have been significant protests regarding the saturation of shelters in Chinatown. How can we ensure fair distribution of such facilities throughout the city?
So coming into my seat as commissioner for DSS, and the Department of Homeless Services falls under my jurisdiction, I'm looking at it in a holistic approach, because homelessness is not a one borough, a one district, a one community problem. It's a citywide problem. And we're looking across all districts, all community boards, all council member districts to see where there is opportunity to house our fellow New Yorkers who are our neighbors. So I'm looking at where there's oversaturation, where there's undersaturation, because all New Yorkers, we live in a right to shelter city. We must provide shelter to those who come to us. And the expectation is that everyone is going to play their part and have shelter in their district, in their communities, and contribute to our neighbors until we can get them back on stability, on a stable road to either a permanent and a supportive housing.
What's the current numbers of homeless people?
There's approximately 45,000 individuals who are in our system.
Including families?
Including families.
Okay. Here's from Hillary Meltzer. Given the minuscule number of people whose encampments were destroyed who went into shelters, what evidence does the city have that this outreach strategy is effective?
So we continue, as I stated earlier, to really engage those individuals. And we're really pleased when someone accepts our services to come in. Because then when they do come in, now we're able to provide a proper assessment. We're able to give them the proper medical care that they deserve. And we're able to work with them to get them back into stable housing. We can't do that with an individual living on the street. So, it takes time. It also is civil liberties. One, we can't force someone to come in off of the street. Do we want them living on the street? Absolutely not. I believe it's inhumane for anyone to live on the street. So bringing them in is going to take time. It's taking us time to build trust with those individuals. We have wonderful providers that we work with in this effort because, it's not a city alone problem. It's a citywide problem. So we have dedicated community-based organizations that's really in this effort with us, and we really appreciate and applaud them for being in this effort as well.
The last question was, I think, pushing you to think about the effectiveness. And I think what the question asked was, do you have any evidence that what you're doing now will be effective in keeping the people out of the encampments and taking the services that you're offering?
Well, we're going to continue to assess. This is not a one-shot deal where we bring someone in and then we just forget about it. We're going to evaluate. We're going to track and monitor those individuals to ensure that the ones that we bring in receive the services that they deserve and ensure that they don't go back out. Will some go back out to the street? It's their right. They can. But we're really hoping, and it's our expectation, that we're going to deliver those services and really keep that engagement vibrant with those individuals to keep them from being on the street.
Okay, this is from Olivia Killingsworth. Can the commissioner explain why the city is pursuing sweeps of encampments when it's against CDC guidelines if they are not able to offer private accommodations as opposed to congregate shelter, and why people belonging are being discarded instead of vouchered for pickup later? This is a complicated question. Do you have it? I can read it again if you need it.
No, I have it. I believe I have it. If I don't, you'll let me know something I didn't answer. How about that?
Okay.
So it's a public health emergency, right? It's public health safety. It's not safe to have a cardboard box for someone to live in. It's really also not good for the community. And what's not being said is that we receive a lot of complaints from New Yorkers, neighbors that live in that area, one, who are concerned about the individual residing in a cardboard box, but two, just the fabric of the neighborhood has changed when you have one living in a unsafe environment. So we provide the individual with notice. It's not as though we go in the same day. We go out there with the outreach team and we provide notice that we are going to come and clean this area with the Department of Sanitation. And then we come back following up. We do that same engagement again with that individual or individuals. And then we proceed to clean. If someone, and when they do come in, we do provide storage for those individuals. So we don't discard all of their belongings. They let us know what they want to keep and they let us know what to discard. That's the process. So it's not as though we go in and we just sweep everything away, because these are people's personal belongings.
Okay. Let's see. This is from Polly, Spain. There are many homeless individuals on the A train. Is homestay canvassing the A line for individuals who need help? Are the transit officers helping in conjunction with DSS to identify stations where people are living in the tunnels?
Yes, we're working closely with the MTA. We're working closely with NYPD. We're working closely with Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. So this is a joint multi-agency effort. It's not just one agency. We're on the trains. We're in the subways. We're traveling. We're engaging individuals. We're working with our state partners, the Office of Mental Health, to really ensure that this is not a silo initiative. It's a joint initiative. So the A line is definitely one of the trains lines that we're targeting to ensure that we're having that engagement with individuals.
Okay, this is from Nick Negron, who is a student at the New York Law School. Thank you again for speaking with us. As reported by the New York Times, several of the city's homeless providers have a history of providing subpar services, while the executives of these organizations earned millions of dollars in salaries. What is the city doing to ensure that taxpayer money is being spent most effectively to combat homelessness?
Thank you for that question. It's a very important question. The vast majority of our providers are providing top-notch service to our population. Again, I said, when we select a provider, we make sure we review their proposals through the open RFP to ensure that the services that they're suggesting and proposing to offer meets our standards. When there's one bad apple, it's not good for all, right? So we make sure that we are closely monitoring, working with DOI. When we identify potential fraud, we report it and we investigate. And before we even report it, if we recognize that a provider looks like they're doing something that's incorrect, we want to work with that provider to course correct, right? So we call it a corrective action plan to give instruction on what they should not be doing. Some of our providers are small and they're just starting up, so they need that guidance that we provide to them. But again, if all fails, that's when law enforcement gets involved. And when and if we need to disengage ourselves with that particular provider, we will and we have. Okay,
here's again from Robin and Bill Hubbard. Many of these facilities were abandoned or sold. I'm not sure which one he's referring to. Some are still owned by the city and state. They resemble college campuses: Wingdale, Seaview Hospital, the Farm Colony, Willowbrook, Spofford. The problem wasn't the facilities, it was the level and skill of the staffing. Why can't they be reopened and properly staffed? He's referring back to the institutionalization of people with mental disabilities. So he's asking why shouldn't we be reopening some of these facilities for appropriate situations?
Thank you for that question, and thank you for the suggestion. And we are looking at real estate throughout New York City where we can properly provide services to individuals. Again, we're not working in a silo. When I say we, the city, we are engaging the state because some of those facilities are state owned. So that engagement is occurring, and we are evaluating to see where there's appropriate real estate for us to expand and reopen if necessary.
Okay. This is from Raji E. Again, we really ask that you give your last name. It's helpful for everybody and to know who the questioner is, and we're getting good, honest answers. So we like good, honest questions. I am a forensic social worker, and a lot of clients I work with who are out in the community or returning to the community from Rikers or upstate prisons do not want to go to traditional shelters. Is there a plan to expand safe havens and drop in places where people can still receive services? Okay. Raji, I apologize. Your name is there, but I have a little difficulty pronouncing it.
Absolutely. Under the mayor's subway safety plan, he committed to opening up an additional 500 safe haven stabilization beds. And we are on track. Before the end of the spring, beginning of the summer, we will have 500 additional. We recognize that certain individuals don't want to go to our traditional congregate settings. So we are committed and we will meet that demand. Also want to say that, since I've taken this seat, going into the fourth month, had a conversation with both the DLC commissioner and the state corrections commissioner, because we want to better understand, I want to better understand how we can collaborate and partner on the discharge planning process to ensure that there is a plan, not just to release an individual to a shelter, but what else can we do as city and state to ensure that that person that's being released starts off on the right footing and receive the appropriate assessment so we can better understand where they should reside upon release.
This is from Andre P. This being a law school, I'd like to ask a legal question. What is the legal basis for seizing homeless people's property and immediately trashing it in sanitation trucks? Doesn't it violate the constitutional protections against cruel punishment and against taking of property without due process of law?
So again, as I stated, the process is, and I'm going to walk you through the process. The city places a notice at the encampment prior to the actual cleanup. So we don't do it the same day. And when we do arrive there, we do engage that individual or individuals to let them know what will occur. But most importantly, we are there to engage them and hopefully get them to accept our services by coming in, right? By coming into one of our traditional shelters, our drop-in center, our safe haven, or a stabilization bed. So we really want to give options to those individuals. But we also, during that engagement, is providing that assessment of that individual. Because again, that one size fits all is not our approach. We really want to engage that individual. So when they have those belongings, we will work with that individual to secure their belongings and put it into storage.
Okay. Next, from Michael Patrick. It appears that a major problem with our city homeless population is the perception that shelters are not safe. Is this the case? If so, what is your plan to fix it, and what is your timeline? If this is not the case and the shelters truly are safe, what can you and your agency do to change the widespread perception?
Thank you for that question. And from day one, that's what I've been working on from January 1st. The mayor and I have been going out to the various shelters unannounced to really look at the conditions and speak with the individuals and speak with the staff at those locations. The locations that I have visited, and I haven't visited all of them, I'm continuing every week to go out unannounced to those locations. What I observed is a clean facility. It's an orderly facility. Speaking with the individuals, do I hear some complaints? Yes, I do. Are they really alarming complaints? No, they're not thus far. So really changing that perception and getting the message out to New Yorkers that the shelters are not this dangerous environment that one is fearful of going into. We as a city, and we will work on changing that perception, but it's going to take everyone to help us in this effort, right? It's just not a city problem. I mean, not an agency problem. It's a citywide problem. So on my end, as I go in, I'm going to start communicating out what I'm seeing. I've been posting on social media when I do go out to locations so folks know that the commissioner for the Department of Social Services is engaged. I want folks to know that I'm out there, but more importantly, I'm speaking with the clients that's there to let us know how we can do better. Because I don't want to be that a city official that's telling them what they need, because I lived in a shelter once before and I know what I wanted and how I wanted services delivered. So I'm engaging those individuals and really speaking to our homeless brothers and sisters to really learn from them how we can do better.
Thank you. Now this is from Charles Brescher. What changes, if any, are needed to Kendra's law to help you better serve homeless individuals?
So it's really looking at the law and seeing how we can improve the mental health of individuals and not just have someone go in to a hospital for a short period of time and then released. Individuals need that mental health care, and we need to serve them with compassion. And one admission may not be enough for that individual. So we need to look at what can we do to ensure that the city is taking care of those who cannot take care of themselves independently. So looking at Kendra's law, and really seeing how we can improve and how I don't want to say enforce, because that's a strong word, but how do we really look at the law and reshape it to help individuals in need? That's the bottom line. I have no other hidden agenda, no other way of why I'm doing this job and why Mayor Adams is really looking at Kendra's law. It's really the bottom line is helping individuals who cannot help themselves.
Here's from Malka Hemlock. Again, thank you all for so many questions. Under the previous commissioner, individuals in shelter were for the first time permitted to turn down supportive housing placements without being penalized. Will this policy continue to be in place during your tenure?
So supportive housing is so critical and so important. You receive the wraparound services at that location, and you have a sense of stability in supportive housing. And we encourage and we are promoting those who are eligible to move into supportive housing to move in, but it's client's choice. So when an apartment, a unit is shown to an individual, they have the right to say, yes, I want to move in, or no, this is not the right unit for me. So it's client's choice. I'm always going to be an advocate for client's choice because I as an individual, I want to have a choice of where I actually live. So to answer your question, yes, clients will have a choice where they want to live. We're always going to ensure that they have a choice and a place to go and live within our supportive housing stock.
Here's a question again from Vicky Bean. Can you provide some specifics about how DSS and the housing and planning agencies are working together to increase the supply of housing available to those experiencing homelessness? DSS? Okay,
I'm sorry, Professor.
I just starting to repeat the question. You got it though.
Yes, and I was going to say I love hearing from Vicky Bain, a great former colleague and a great person overall. Working closely with our chief housing officer, because homelessness and housing go together, right? The end line and the solution for homelessness is housing. But in between, there's so much, right, of social services, addressing the mental health needs, addressing the financial needs, addressing the social needs as we move to get a person into stable housing. So I am proud to say that I am working closely with our Chief Housing Officer, Jessica Katz, to ensure that we are in alignment, that we're not working in silos, that we're working in conjunction with one another. And that's our colleagues in HPD and our colleagues in NYCHA to ensure that we are doing our best as a city as a whole to address homelessness and address our homeless neighbors.
Thank you. All right, this is from Mark Diller. As I understand the governor's 10-point plan, there is a renewed focus on Kendra's law as a means of addressing unsheltered homeless who resist the outreach of MOC and similar offers of care. What is the proper role for Kendra's law, and what should be where should that line be drawn? You already spoke to this, but maybe you can add.
Again, we just want to ensure that we have the tools available to us to take care of our neighbors with mental health concerns, working closely with our Department of Mental Health and Hygiene, working closely with health and hospitals so we can provide services to those individuals who are not able to take care of themselves.
Okay, here's a sort of a follow-up from Raji. Many clients report feeling safer on the streets than in shelters, and what they describe as not just a subjective feeling, but it's based on their experiences in crowded shelters. So he's challenging you on the issue of safety in the shelters.
Appreciate the challenge. Working and observing closely our security protocols that's in place, identifying those gaps and correcting those gaps, working closely with our NYPD colleagues to give us that insight on how we can improve the safety within our shelter system. So I'm not approaching this work in a silo that Commissioner Jenkins, who one is not a lawyer. I did go to John Jay College, as you mentioned, but my major was forensic psychology. But just making sure that we're working with our colleagues with the experience, and again, really listening to the clients and listening to our public safety officers that's within the facilities so we can improve our safety protocols.
Thank you. And this is from Allison. You mentioned that the city tries to keep children in their own school system if they lose housing and require shelter. I have seen studies suggesting outcomes are best when people are sheltered near their own communities where they are familiar and may return to ultimately. Is there any such effort to keep people near their original communities?
Absolutely. And we are right to Shelter City, as I stated earlier, and we really are working with our community boards, our elected officials to ensure that we have proper housing within all communities. Again, our goal is to keep families close to their successful anchors of life, close to their schools, close to their faith-based organizations, close to their neighbors, their friends. So our process, especially with families with children, is to make sure that we place those families with children, the youngest child in the household, in that borough, closest to that school, to ensure there's as minimum disruption to the travel to the school as possible. Now, of course, if it's an instance of domestic violence and it's not safe for that individual or individuals to be within that borough, then we make the proper adjustment.
Okay, this is from Steve Cohen. You mentioned 3,000 special shelter beds. Is that enough? How large is the population? How many are in danger to themselves and others?
So we continue to evaluate, Steve. As I said, we are adding an additional 500 safe haven stabilization beds under Mayor Adams' subway safety plan. And we're going to continue to evaluate this and open up those purpose-built shelters in communities. We want to move away, and the last administration did a great job with moving folks out of that cluster environment, out of those commercial hotels for families, because we recognize that was not the best environment for our clients. And it wasn't a dignified way to place people into temporary transitional housing. So we're going to continue to evaluate and see where we can build and making sure that we are building purpose-built shelters.
This will have to be the last question. It's from Matthew Walsh. Aside from Homestat, is there anything else from a technology standpoint that DSS is considering implementing to address the homelessness crisis? I take it additional technology.
We are constantly evaluating what we can do in regards to technology. Even our, coming into office, and we're observing our outreach staff who are out there with pen and paper. Pen and paper in this age is just not acceptable. And Mayor Adams is pushing us and ensuring that we utilize technology to the best of our ability as we interact and serve clients within our program areas, within our agencies. So we're going to look at our outreach team and make sure that they receive the technology so they can have data available to them, and we can capture the data, not just pen and paper, but actually start data entering directly into our systems.
Is that something that will happen soon, or is that many years away?
It's imminent. We have 4 years to get this done, and I'm not trying to wait until the third year to implement. We are a get stuff done administration, and we're going to get it done.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Jenkins, for taking on so many tough questions, and also for the questioners. We really appreciate the exchange, and thank you for the challenging questions. And there are more still on the list. I'm sorry we're not going to get to them, because now we're going to turn this portion of the program over to Dean Anthony Crowell and Commissioner Jenkins for a colloquy between them. Dean Anthony Crowell, you're up.
Thank you.
Thanks, Professor Sandler. Hi, Gary. It's nice to see you.
Anthony, great to see you, my brother.
So thanks so much for the very thoughtful presentation. We appreciate you being here, and it is not lost on any of us how difficult your role is and how difficult your overall service with the city has become in recent years due to so many different factors. I have a number of questions I want to pose to you, and I really want to focus on leadership issues, because I think that our system of providing for New York's most vulnerable starts with strong leadership at the top, certainly with the mayor, with yourself. You have a wonderful deputy mayor who oversees you, with Ann Isom-Williams. So I'd like to get a sense from you as to how that relationship is structured, how it's going, and what the team looks like, and maybe a little perspective on the relationship with the PC.
Sure. The relationship is going extremely well. As you mentioned, have a wonderful deputy mayor, and that is Ann Isom-Williams. Ann is a hands-on individual, really want to be helpful and creative and thought-provoking, and always pushing us to ask the questions, right? Let's just not settle on, okay, we've always done it this way. Why we always do it this way? How can we change? Where are the opportunities to improve? What can we do better for the clients that we serve? And then what can we do for the staff that's under us, right? How do we serve our staff? So within DSS, as soon as I came in and met with the leadership team, I said, we want to create a leadership academy. We have a little over 16,000 staff members across the 3 agencies. When I say 3 agencies, the Human Resources Administration, the Department of Homeless Services, and the Department of Social Services. And that Department of Social Services is all of our support work. How do we engage our staff to ensure that they're receiving the leadership skills to move to the next level and not leave city government? So we're going to create a leadership academy. In addition, we're going to create a customer service model. And that's what we're looking at the Walt Disney model, because I recognize for our staff, they are trained on eligibility, right? Person comes to them, they strictly focus on, is this person eligible for a benefit or not? But our clients come to us with so many other challenges, and we need to ensure that the staff are equipped to understand that our clients are complex, and we should not just focus only on eligibility. So working with the deputy mayor is on all of these efforts. Working with the mayor meets with us every Sunday, and really to better understand and provide guidance. He's a hands-on mayor. He really wants to ensure that we, one, are paying attention to the needs of New Yorkers, but also providing that firsthand guidance as the leader of New York City, and the opportunity for us to ask questions and for him to respond. So that relationship across going up is phenomenal. If I can just speak briefly, Anthony, on going down, we have an administrator for Department of Homeless Services. We have an administrator for HRA that report directly into me. I want to make sure that I'm providing them with the services, because that's my role, is to ensure that they're successful and that their agencies are successful. So really having that dialogue and really just bringing them outside of to have them have the ability to think outside the box and for us to brainstorm together. So we created meetings where all the 3 of us, including the first deputy commissioner for DSS, Jill Berry, that we're all working in tandem and not in silos. So that's what I'm doing.
Great. And how do you keep the frontline staff motivated and inspired at a time of deep crisis?
And that communication, it's me going out. I don't want to, and I won't work from my main office, which is at 4 World Trade Center. I need to be out there on the front lines. And for me, I was a frontline staff member. So I know how important it is to make sure that that message is drilling down. So me going out along with my senior team, going out to the locations, making sure that our presence is felt, but also making sure that we're listening to the frontline staff on what they need. And it's our responsibility to make sure we provide those services back to them.
Great. This week, the mayor made an announcement concerning performance measurement and the new dynamic mayor management report. What are you thinking about? What are you looking to in terms of your success indicators as you move forward with the new plans you're putting in place, and what will that look like?
So it's really looking at our core functions, especially when it comes to public benefits. Are we processing the cases in a timely manner? What's our error rate in regards to the processing of those cases for our various programs, which is cash assistance, public food stamps, SNAP, formerly known as food stamps, Medicaid, adult protective services, DV, fair fares, a host of critical programs that New Yorkers apply for. Want to make sure that we're doing the best and measuring and really evaluating across the board how effective we are doing, but then looking for opportunities where we can improve. On the DHS side, looking at our placement rates. How many families are being placed into permanent and or supportive housing? What does those service deliveries look like? How are we holding our providers accountable for the services they are supposed to provide that's within their contracts? How are we measuring success? So really looking at those metrics and holding ourselves accountable is important. And that's what we'll be doing across the 4 years of this administration.
Great. Let me ask you about, I'm going to go back to a question that we didn't necessarily dig down. I'd like to know more about the relationship with the police commissioner and the police department and the strategy of working together.
Working with Commissioner Sewell, I have her on speed dial. She has me on speed dial. Her team, and I'm not just saying this because we are colleagues, but NYPD is a phenomenal workforce. Their hearts are really into what they are doing. We meet on a regular basis. Right before this call, I was on a call with one of her chiefs to strategize on and better understand how is our various initiatives working. Spoke with Commissioner Sewell yesterday. We're going to get a meeting on the calendar to really partner in looking at as I said earlier, our shelter system, how we can improve the safety within our shelter. She and her team are the experts. So I want to learn and make sure that Commissioner Jenkins, who's not law enforcement, ensuring that their expertise is really being brought in and put on the table as we plan accordingly. So we're working really closely with NYPD. I didn't realize that I would have such a close relationship with so many rank and file, and I'm speaking with all of them, and I'm loving it actually, because we're working together on behalf of New Yorkers. So
to what extent is there cross training that DSS staff will help do any training of NYPD, and to what extent is there any presence of DSS in the police academy, talking about broader issues that come up in social work, that come up in mental health? We often, we have many views of the police department, but one of the things is the police department, on one level, are frontline social workers in many respects. What's some of those shared perspectives and common training that might be going on?
So again, Mayor Adams directed us not to work in silos. So with the subway safety plan, we did have training before we actually rolled out, and NYPD was part of that training because they provided their expertise on safety, right? So we learned from them. We also taught, I would hope, taught them as well as far as the social services aspect and how engagement and what engagement should look like. So we will continue that dialogue. Even looking at our DHS, we have our own police force. What does that look like in regards to training? And we want to learn from NYPD. The last administration moved away from that. I'm moving back towards it, of really engaging NYPD in our training of our peace officers.
So if we were to have you back in 1 year, what do you think that report from you would look like, or what do you hope it to look like?
I'm not gonna be hoping. It's going to look like we engage our clients. We have more placements. We are ensuring that the benefits we provide to New Yorkers is more streamlined, is more available, is more in a caring and compassionate manner, and that our public perception has changed.
Great. All right. Thanks very much. It was so nice to see you. And I know all too often those of us in public service, and I consider myself now in this role, still in public service, don't get the gratitude. And I know it's a tough job, and not everyone will agree, not everyone will be happy, but the scale at which you in particular operate is gargantuan. And thank you for your leadership in undertaking that mission each and every day. And I love the Sunday meetings, because frankly, what other day is there to meet other than a Sunday? Actually, both recap what happened and what's about to happen in the following week. So I appreciate those mayoral Sunday meetings very much.
I appreciate them as well. Thank you, Dean.
All right.
Thank you both. And thank you, Commissioner Jenkins, for joining us this morning. And thank the audience. There were terrific questions. There were many more questions than we got to. We will get them to Commissioner Jenkins, and so you'll at least see what's on the minds of the questioners. And we thank you all for attending. We'll see you again at a City Law Breakfast. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.